Rail fare rises have come into effect, as campaign groups and trade unions complained that the increases continued to outstrip average wage growth. The rail industry says the average rise of 2.2% is the lowest for 5 years. Regulated fares, including season tickets, rise by up to 2.5%. The TUC said UK commuters spent more than twice as much of their salary as some passengers in Europe. The government said fares were crucial to funding rail modernisation. This year's fare hike will hit passengers particularly hard because wages are rising so slowly. Francis O'Grady TUC General Secretary. The Campaign for Better Transport said the cost of a Milton Keynes to London season ticket had risen by 23.5%, or £930, since January 2010. The price of a 2015 ticket is £4,888. The group said this was one of a number of fares to increase by about 4 times more than average wages over the 5-year period. The annual rise in ticket prices follows news of an agreement by rail companies to direct travelers to the cheapest deal for their journey. A summit last month with representatives from across the rail industry, including train operators, saw agreement in principle to a new code of practice, which has yet to be fully drafted. Earlier this week, Network Rail Chief Executive Mark Carne revealed he would not be taking his bonus after Christmas engineering works overran and caused major rail disruption. Rip-off. As this year's fare increases came into effect on Friday, TUC General Secretary Francis O'Grady said, "This year's fare hike will hit passengers particularly hard because wages are rising so slowly. Rail fares are now consuming a huge proportion of people's wages, leaving precious little for other bread and butter expenses." RMT General Secretary Mick Cash said, "The scandal of Britain's great rail fares rip-off continues with today's hike far outstripping average pay increases, and it will once again hit those at the sharp end of the austerity clampdown the hardest." Mr. McLaughlin said, "We are investing in the biggest rail modernisation since the Victorian era and fares have a crucial role to play in funding these improvements. This is because building better infrastructure helps create jobs, building a stronger economy for us all. We recognize passengers' concerns about the cost of rail fares. This is why we have frozen them for the 2nd year in a row. We are protecting passengers even further by stopping operating companies from increasing individual fares by up to 2% more." Michael Roberts, Director General of the Rail Delivery Group representing rail operators and Network Rail, said, "At 2.2%, the average increase in fares in 2015 is the lowest for 5 years. We understand no one likes to pay more, especially to go to work. For every £1 spent on fares, 97p goes on track, train, staff, and other costs, while 3p goes in profits earned by train companies for running services on Europe's fastest growing railway." Struggling. Shadow Transport Secretary Michael Duggar said Labour would enforce a strict cap on fares. He said, "David Cameron is presiding over a rip-off railway in Britain. He has failed to stand up for working people struggling with the cost of living crisis and has allowed the train companies to hit passengers with massive fare rises of over 20% since 2010. Some season tickets have now risen by over 30% under this government, forcing people to pay thousands of pounds more to commute to work on increasingly overcrowded trains." Anthony Smith, Chief Executive of independent watchdog Passenger Focus, said, "Although fares have still gone up, passengers will be relieved that the average rise in England was capped at inflation instead of inflation plus 1% as was previously planned. It is also good to see that there is no flexibility for individual fares to go up by more than this." He added that the rail industry needed to look at value for money, when just over 4 in 10 passengers said they were happy with the value of their ticket. "What is now needed is a more consistent day-to-day service and a flexible fares structure that delivers with the type of products that passengers want," he said.